Just interesting. Thank you for music. Thank you for the choir. Thank you for Mark. Give God praise.
Yes, amen.
Amen. Caitlin is helping Carla today and everything. And thank you, Caitlin. Give God praise.
Yes.
All going on. Real good. Real good. Let us open our Bibles if you have Bibles. If you look at the screen or you look up on the back of your bulletin. Thanks, ushers, for being who you are. Thanks, students. This is going to be a word that I hope it gets down to your very soul. It's a two-part word series. Notice the Word of God. We've been using that theme. That's our theme for this year, talking about Tithe 2020. Tithe 2020. And it shares there, and Jacob vowed a vow saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, and so that I can come to again to my Father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God, and the stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give thee, give the tenth of me unto thee. But the next scripture comes from the King James Version, and it reads, the God of our fathers raised up Jesus, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree. You got King James Version, that's what it says. From same Acts 10:39, it says, and we are witnesses of all things which did both the land of the Jews and Jerusalem, whom they slew and hanged on a tree. Him God raised up the third day and shewed him openly. And then from Galatians 3:13 says, Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. To God be the glory. Amen. As I start this message, as we are in another month, the month called February. And as we know, in churches and schools across the nation, it is recognized for February as Black History Month. There are some would think why we have such a recognition. And I tell them sometimes we forget 246 years from 1619 to 1865, where people of color looked at cattle and they were slaves. During that time, they wasn't even looked upon as people. We sometimes forget that during the time called Reconstruction period, from 1865 to 1877, where we had African Americans in different parts of politics. 12 years was trying to change and things went sour. And recognizing African Americans as equal to anyone else. That they can do many achievements. That's why in 1926, Carter G. Woodson and the Associates for the Study of Negro Life and History announced at that time the second week of February. The second week of February had two people's birthdays. Does anybody know whose two birthdays they were?
Washington.
Abraham Lincoln.
And Washington.
Not Washington. Huh? Frederick. Because of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass came on the second week, February, Negro history. And it wasn't until 50 years later, 1976, that President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month. As he said, calling upon the public to, quote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of African Americans, or the Black Americans, in every area of endeavor throughout our history. Too often neglected. And in churches, for a long time, especially, I'm talking mainly Black churches, you go to a church and there's only 3 songs that you would hear, choir or anybody else sing. Because there was no such thing as gospel music. There was no such thing as rap gospel music. There was no such thing as... Somebody gonna share with me, Malik, that when you came into a church, there was only 3 kinds of songs you gonna hear. Hymns, and can I get a witness?
Amen.
Anthems, can I get a witness? And spirituals. That was it. That was it. Don't be looking for no. That was it. You want your music? That was it. This was before Thomas Dorsey, who is the father of gospel music. This was before that time. In churches, you will hear this songs called Negro spirituals, that comforted a people that were continuing to be abused and mistreated and misused, both in general and in society, through racism, segregation, and yes, lynching. The history of Negro spirituals, also referred to as slave songs and plantation songs, is more than a simple account of the foundation of African American music in this country. It's a story that had much deeper roots which reach back in time to reveal the sordid tales of tortured human bondage. A time when African Americans were captive and struggled to survive the tyranny of their white slave owners. Many slaves lost the struggle along the way, but they kept going. So old Negro spirituals give an account of the history of Black Americans and how they suffered and enslaved and how they dealt with that. Because they could have been better. They could have went on and revolted, saying, we're going to try to go over and try to take over. But within the church, that the preacher and the music help people to get through. Help people to understand that there is a good God. There is a good God. And so today when we sung the song today, were you there when they crucified my Lord? That song has deep, deep meanings. Believe it or not, it came from the two brothers, the Works brothers. And throughout, they had them and other people sing that song. And it says that, notice how it escapes you, how it grabs you. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? To the natural, we will say no. The answer would be no. But spiritually, we all were there.
Yes, yes.
Represented by our sin and shame, taken on by the Son of God, who died so that we all may live. And no doubt, this was the mind of these writers that penned beautifully this written hymn. Words so reach the depths of our soul and reveal the shame and guilt that we all have. So I had to go, on this first Sunday of February, I had to go there. All right. And talk about, were you there? Because if you say no, you don't know how to take communion. Were you there? If you say no, you don't know what you're doing when you take the bread and take the cup. You don't know. That's right. What's going on? Today we have a two-part series on this. Were you there? And I saw this in the Bible. Acts 5:30. Hit Acts 5:30 again. And I couldn't believe it said that. And I made sure, because in the days when Mama came up, there was no Message Bible or New Living Translation or New International Version. There was no other version around. And she would say versions. There were no other versions around. The only version she had was the King James Version.
Yes. That's right.
They lived by that. I know there's people in the rain live by that.
Yes, they do.
King James Version. There is no other version.
No.
But in that version, look what it says. Acts 5:30, the God of our fathers. This is Peter talking when he was being persecuted, and they allowed him to come out, and they said, you need to stop talking about Jesus. And he said, no way, Jose. He didn't say that, but you know what he meant. I'm going to keep talking about Jesus. And watch this. He said something in that passage that just blew our minds. It blew our minds. It says, the God of our fathers raised up Jesus. All right. Whom, what? Ye slew. That's crazy there, y'all. This is about maybe no more than 5 years after Jesus was crucified. This was 5 years after Jesus was buried.
Right.
But Peter said, you slew Jesus. And he said, whom you slew and what? Hanged. On a tree. Hanged on a tree. Two parts of that is one that everybody that knows Jesus Christ, we need to always say, we slew him. Not Pontius Pilate, not the Roman soldiers, but those who are in sin. Those who put Jesus on the cross. Those in which he went to the cross. We slew him. We went on and put him in there. We the one that said, hey, I'm going to do my sin. I don't care if you like it or not. And so sometimes we forget about that. We forget the fact that one, don't look at somebody else and say what they did. We did that. All of us. All of us. But then here's the factor that it says, whom you slew and hanged on a tree. Whom you slew and hanged on a tree. When color folks, we used to be called color folks, you may know something about that. We used to be called color folks when they heard that. Between the years of 1880 to 1940, there was a time where people had to deal, families in church had to deal with their neighbor or their family member or somebody they knew that was hung on a tree. We think about the fact that this was common. This was common. They had pictures and they had postcards of showing a person hung just because he looked at cross-eyed at somebody or he talked back at somebody. Interesting that it was shared that a school teacher once penned these words that were taken by a songster, a song singer, a singer that you know. It was by a school teacher who saw these things called lynching and said, strange fruit. The person, some of y'all already know who I'm talking to, when you see them. Some of y'all may not never been out in the world. I've been out in the world at times. I don't know if y'all ain't been out in the world. Strange fruit. Sung by a woman named Billie Holiday. And she got much hurt by singing that song. She was told many times, you can sing all the songs you want, don't sing that song. And she refuted them, said, I gotta sing that song because I sing it all the time. Next week I'll show you give you the song and that you see it, you know, what words it say. But when that was going on, and the preacher opened the Bible and saw this scripture, 5:30, Acts 5:30. And go to the next one, 10:39, where it says that we were saying that they slew and hanged on a tree. This is Jesus. The folk there got a connection between the cross and the lynching tree. They could see that Jesus understands what they were going through. And any other people that should cling and be the followers of Jesus Christ, it was those that had to deal with lynching at that time. And so as I come to the close, as you think about that, I want you to think when we say, were you there? When they nailed him, what? To the tree. When they nailed him, when they crucified my Lord. When they hung him. Next week I will also show you, how many people have ever heard the book Sacred Sanctuary? Sacred Sanctuary. It's a whole book, I forgot to bring it today, that shared the pictures of those that were lynched. Just because, sometimes just because of the color of their skin. And how people had to still sing songs in church. And when they sing this spiritual, were you there? They put both of them together. Were you there? And say, my Lord, I know the trouble. When we talk about spirituals, I hope that you get a chance to know what it says. Nobody knows what? The trouble I see. And I'm going to try to deal with it. But there's two versions of nobody knows. That means, did y'all know that? There are two versions of nobody knows the trouble I see. The first version says, nobody knows the trouble I see. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I see. And then it ends, glory. Hallelujah. The second version is almost the same, but it's a little different. It says, nobody knows the trouble I see. But it says, nobody knows but Jesus.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Nobody knows the trouble I see. Glory. Hallelujah. Thank God.
Yes.
That whatever you're going through.
That's right. That's right.
Because everybody don't know your troubles. No one understands your pain.
Right.
No one don't know how much you've been through. No one how much you're going through. No one doesn't understand what you had to happen in your life.
Right. Right.
That sometimes have stuffed you out. But you can say nobody knows the trouble I see. Nobody knows but Jesus. All of us have faced some death in our lives.
Yes.
All of us have some pain of loss. Of folk that we don't understand why they had to go now.
Right.
Why they had to leave this way. Remember, that's spiritual. That one, Jesus knows. He knows because he's had our pain.
Right.
He knows our pain.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I talk to people, I say, did Muhammad go to the cross for me?
No.
Watch it now.
Did Confucius go to the cross for me?
Oh, Lord.
Did any founder of any religion go to the cross and suffer pain for me?
Nope.
Only Jesus.
Yes.
That's why I say Tide 2020, because Jesus hung on the cross for me.
Yes. Thank you, Lord. Thank
For me. Little sinful me. Sinful lady, that white wife says, I'm still got to come to this altar and say, Lord, forgive me.
you. Yes.
I still got to come to this table and say, Lord, thank you for allowing me to take the bread and take the cup.
Yes.
Because I got to remember, I got amnesia sometimes.
Right. Right.
Sometimes I do what I shouldn't do, and I forget.
God help us.
I forget how much you love me.
Oh, God.
How much you care. Not one of us would have done the same. Am I right about it?
Amen.
Not one of us would have gone that far.
Say it.
Let us pray. Father, we come before you.
Yes.
Because you hung on the tree for me. Because you love me. That you bear my sins. Not only you bear my sins, but you bear the punishment of sin. You were innocent like others were innocent.
Yes. Oh, God.
And yet you dealt with the most horrible death in human history. Let us never forget how much you loved us. And let us never forget that we need to be there.
Yes. Yes.
When you were crucified. Oh, there should be a time, Lord, that we should tremble sometimes.
Yes.
We should tremble. Were we there? In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.